I'm small businesses. I'm continually fighting to get paid
if you
from
ask
the
me
city on an ongoing basis.
If you ask me if there's a war on small businesses,
So today, let's talk about the war on small businesses. This isn't a rant and a rave. It's just to bring some things to your attention that we've noticed in talking to other small businesses and advocating for small businesses and putting our finger on the pulse of what's going on in the government. We want to let you know there's a war going on. You need to put on the full armor of small business battle gear and get ready so that you can win. I was looking online and one of my Twitter buddies, Ramon Ray, he posted a photo with a book called The War on Small Business by Carol Roth. And he was like, she's so spot on. I was like, ooh, the title alone captured my attention. Chief, do you think there's a war on small businesses?
wait, there's always been a war on small business.
All right.
Like if people were talking about the war on small business because of the pandemic, and when I say it's a war on small business, let me be clear. I'm not saying, and some people might agree or disagree, that there's some group or some conspiracy that's out there trying to end small business and shut them down. When I say there's a war, there is in every place, county, city, state, jurisdiction is different.
Mm-hmm.
I can only speak to where I do business.
Mm-hmm.
And New York City is not small business friendly.
Especially not under the current administration.
So when you say war, I look at it as there's not harmony. There's not any interaction going on to say, how do we all win together? Right? There is plenty out there, whether it's on the business side, the workers side, the political side, city, state, et cetera, however you divvy it up. There is plenty out there for everyone. But the challenge is a lot of people subscribe to the notion of scarcity. So they always operating from, I got to take from this person or restrict this, so there's enough for me, or there's enough for my group, or for the people I represent, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I don't think people realize, like, there's a lot of stuff out there. And I just say stuff because depending on what type of business you're in or what field you're in or what you do, but like,
there's an abundance of opportunity. There's an abundance of
money,
resources. There's an abundance of networks and
there's abundance of votes out there. There's an abundance of a lot of stuff out there. Just people have the wrong mentality, and it's from scarcity. So because of that, there becomes this
hoarder approach.
And then it becomes this mentality like on the legal side, like we need to create. Here's a good one. It's always from a negative aspect to get something done. Not always, but majority of the time, right? Let's use the plastic bag thing here in New York City. So those who don't know, there was this whole big thing that went on for I don't know how long, about ending plastic bags, restricting the use of plastic bags in New York City. Which, listen, you have no clue. I am all for the environment. Because I just don't understand some of the stuff we do to the planet and expect the planet to still take care of us. Like, it's fucking unbelievable. Sorry, BronxNet. It's like, I just don't get it. So, but anyway. So I am all for, listen, in my house, we recycle, we separate everything. I even buy, and Jess hates them, our garbage bags are compostable. Like, I don't even like using the plastic bags to put trash in or recyclables in that go into the landfills. Because that's when that's all the trash is going to a landfill.
And then in China.
Right. Or they sell it and they pay to take it away somewhere and dump it in another country or another state or what have you. But I even get the bags that will break down. And there's a difference. Break down
in the house before they even get outside to the garbage.
Right. They do break in the house. That's why she hates them, because you can't let them sit for so long, and there's a difference between biodegradable and compostable. And these bags are compostable, however it's pronounced. So they start to break down quickly once they get exposed to moisture, light, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, the New York City plastic bag thing. I agree. There's a lot of bags. There's a lot of trash, and they go into the waterways and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So some politicians and lawmakers decided to take the approach of, if we have the plastic bags, there will be a penalty, or you have to pay. I don't want to say a fine, but you had to pay.
It's basically a tax.
Right. There's a tax for these plastic bags if you use them. So let me rephrase that. Certain places can use them, like the
low-income communities, senior citizens, like
restaurants and like corner stores, like the corner supermarket, but not major places. Like
not like you used to. You go
to supermarket, grocery store,
and walk out with 20
plastic
bags.
Right, do double because they're so thin. They double them, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So they can't do those anymore. So they have to either use paper bags or those reusable recycled bags. And if you get paper bags, it costs whatever 6 cents per bag if you get them. So it's some type of tax. Or you just bring your own reusable bags, and you don't pay anything. My thing was, instead of this tax or this fee on the business or the person, why not incentivize people to bring their own bags? Like, so if I bring my reusable bag, I get some kind of incentive that I get at the cash register from the grocery store, and then the grocery store or whatever, the retail store, let's put it that way, the retail store submits that to the local city agency who's heading this, and then they get some kind of reimbursement from the city, versus it being punitive. And I only heard one and I swear I can't remember this guy's name, and I wish I did because I saw it on the news for a hot second. I heard one politician saying, like, he was fed up and he was like really sad that it's always from a punitive aspect versus being from a positive aspect. Like, you don't raise children that way, to be like punitive. Like, there's positive reinforcement. So why don't we use that in our world as adults? Like, it's always negative.
Let's bring it back to small businesses, though. The war on small businesses.
My point is, thank you, is that there's all these rules and regulations that penalize and affect the small businesses more than any other business group, right? There are, like, in New York City, like, there's tons. Like, file a form late, and it's like $1,000 fee. I'm like, $1,000? Like, do you really need to make the penalty $1,000 if I filed this form late? And granted, if I file it late, it should be some penalty. But $1,000? How much of an impact is $1,000 on a small business? Depending what they pay their team members, that could be like 1.5 person's salary for the week. It could be 2 people's salary for the week, right? It's just, I just don't see, and I'm sure there are some things out there, I don't see enough of the things that could be happening to have a greater relationship between small businesses and our city agencies. And I know of plenty of small businesses who do. They're like, oh yeah, the city agencies, they have contracts and set asides for MWBEs, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, that is true. And I'm one of those
people that talk about that. I'm not negating that.
But I know of several small businesses who do work with the city, and they have to routinely fight to get paid on a timely, reoccurring basis.
I'm small businesses. I'm continually fighting to get paid from the city on an ongoing basis.
If you ask me if there's a war on small businesses, not in a traditional sense of people think of the definition of the word war, but there is no harmony. There is no blueprint or pathway for ultimate success for small businesses and these different agencies and entities to work together on a city or state level. Like, it would be such a huge win, and I don't think it's a hard thing to figure out.
So let me start with a disclaimer. I did not read the book yet.
This is my first time hearing of it.
Nonetheless, I always want to bring you information. I want to give you the knowledge, because knowledge is power. And hopefully you'll get the book, or a book that's business related that will empower you to be stronger in how you run your small business. Because remember, knowledge is power, and we want you to use the power that you have to get profits. According to Amazon, the book review for Carol Roth's The War on Small Business, for years, government bureaucrats have been looking for ways to destroy small businesses. With coronavirus, they finally had their chance. In 2020, the American economy suffered the biggest financial collapse in history. But while Main Street suffered like never before, the stock market continued to reach new heights.
Yeah, there's no correlation between Main Street and Wall Street.
How could this be? The answer is that the government had slapped oppressive restrictions on small businesses while propping up Wall Street and engineering a historic consolidation of power and wealth. I mean, what was it? Was it Fortune? It said that there were over 400 new billionaires created
Something like that,
in the 365 days.
In the latest issue of Fortune?
Oh, no, 360. It was either Fortune or Forbes. But in the 365 days since the pandemic was declared, there were over 400 new billionaires, not with an M, but with a B, for big, big dollars. This isn't a new problem. During the last financial crisis, Washington bailed out large banks while saying they're too big to fail. When the federal government finally pushed out the CARES Act in 2020, it clearly favored the wealthy and well-connected, showing that small businesses were too small to matter. People across the political spectrum constantly complained about the tyranny of big business, and they're not wrong. However, too many think government is the solution. In reality, government is the problem. In The War on Small Business, entrepreneur Carol Roth unveils the many abuses of power inflicted on small businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic. Small business owners were thrown in jail for trying to make a living. Individual rights were discarded. Big government did what it does best, intentionally protect the rich and powerful. And so what I wrote was, either you get rich or you get smushed. And we don't want you to get smushed. So let's give the folks in Commerce and Chill Land some actionable things that they can do.
I haven't read this book, but this almost sounds a little conspiracy theory like.
But did anything that I just say,
yeah, but
is that not reality that you see?
It is reality, but there's a part you read, but whichever one we want to use.
No, they're two different. They mean two different things.
It does, but because I'm negating that, I'm just nope. Peace.
You're always contrary.
Yes.
The C is for contradiction. If you've never watched Commerce and Chill before,
or confused, or challenged, or Confucius, whatever it might be. You choose whatever C word you want.
Okay, say what you're gonna say.
So, at one point she says like small business owners get arrested.
Yeah, they were jailed.
But let's be clear. Why were some of them jailed? I don't know all of them, but I've seen a few doing some reckless stuff.
Some of them were jailed for bucking the system.
Right, but not just bucking the system. Let's be clear. And at no point do you hear me saying, "Oh, I agree with businesses being shut down in a certain way."
Right.
Let's be clear. If there's a pandemic, there's a public health crisis, and people's lives are on the line, yes, we need to shut down for things that are not essential,
right?
To a certain degree. But there needs to be a plan and a timeline put in place to say, if you you're going to shutter your doors, and this is what's going to happen, and this is how we're going to help you survive, and this is how we're going to help you reopen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is what should be done. Like, there's a closing plan, and then there's a reopening plan. And I could be wrong, but I don't think it's like in the movies with the zombie apocalypse where two people get, like, somebody bites somebody, and before you know it, it's spreading like wildfire. Like, we saw this coming down the road, and certain entities or certain people didn't make proper preparations or communicate properly or make proper plans. Like, you could see when you listen to different news reports, there were some places like between counties, cities, and states, there were contradictory messages going on between the governing officials in the same place, in the same state, but throughout the different cities and counties. So there was some poor planning and communication.
Agreed.
But
and
if there is a rule that says, listen, you have to be closed because this is a public health risk, and then you choose to open and go against that, there has to be some kind of penalty. Now, I'm not saying I agree with maybe why they were closed or how they were closed or how long they were closed. But if I have like, I don't know, Waleed's
chicken and waffles. Waleed's
why gotta be chicken and waffles? Why couldn't be Waleed's panini shop?
Okay.
Right? Or
because I don't like paninis.
Well, whatever, but it's Waleed's panini shop.
Okay.
And I'm told by the government or whoever, you need to close because of this pandemic. And I'm like, F y'all. I'm opening and I'm serving paninis all day long in my neighborhood, and you're not going to stop me. And I get arrested. I really don't think me serving paninis, is essential to the survival of my neighborhood. Now, there might be a few people who are depending on my paninis to eat so they don't go hungry, but could I do takeout?
Right. That's a perfect opportunity
to
delivery?
Innovate, right.
And reimagine the delivery of your products
But
and
here's
services.
part of it when we talk about, one, people don't want to change, right? And we need to think about that as people in general, not just business owners. People don't want to change. And it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It could be a good thing for you if you're providing them with some type of service that you can capitalize on people's habits and not wanting to change in a good way, not a negative way. Mm-hmm. They didn't want to change because they were used to doing something a certain type of way. So they decided to say, I'm going to buck the system, which in turn led to them breaking the law because the law at that time said you need to be closed. But two, let's think about some of the mentality of the people who decided to buck this system, and think about some of the things we talked about in other episodes where that same mentality has people feeling that they should be entitled to these things that they feel they should get no matter what. And we talked about it in another episode where there are a group of individuals who have this mentality where if they want something or they feel things should be a certain way, they could use force or any means they want to acquire that. Mm-hmm. And we talked about that with Tulsa, where the neighborhood the town got burnt down. It got destroyed. People got killed because people felt that they shouldn't have this, or whatever allegedly happened, they need to go in and do all these things to make it right. So you were saying before.
I'll say both of our businesses benefited from PPP. I will admit, though, there was one point early in the pandemic when I broke down. I broke down in tears because New York City had offered a grant program for small businesses, and there were several other business-led grant programs and state-led low interest rate loan and grant programs, and we didn't qualify for any of those things. Nonetheless, we were
talking about the recent one
back last year. In the spring of last year.
I just about the one that came out not too long ago.
Oh, that's a whole nother story, but we can touch on that before time runs out. And in desperation, I cried out, why should they be able to decide if my business fails? Like, if there's money that's in the city's coffers that we've paid in through our taxes at all, and we're still contributing to the livelihood of the city and the state, we're still putting people to work, we're still helping the city run, then why shouldn't they put me in a position to help my business succeed when they were giving free money to businesses that were turning out the lights? And as Ms. Roth includes in the book, this is the most underreported story coming out of the pandemic. The government chose the winners and the losers, who would thrive and who would fight to survive, based not on data or science, but based on clout and connections.
Oh, is she referring to the people who got PPP through SBA?
I haven't read the book, so I got to go back and read the book.
Oh, we should. Okay, go ahead.
This is just.
I don't know if we should be talking about this if we haven't read the book.
This is the book summary, but I mean, I can relate to what I'm seeing just in the summary because I've seen it.
Oh, there's no question about it.
And we've experienced the other side of it, even though we survived. And
whoa, we're not out of the woods yet.
We're still here though,
right?
And as we talked about on other episodes, with some 40% of Black-owned businesses, small businesses, shut down during the pandemic.
Oh,
And
it's probably more than that.
That number was probably higher now that we've been more than a year into it. Nonetheless, this enabled the government, with the aid of the Federal Reserve, to oversee the largest wealth transfer in history from Main Street to Wall Street. The issues started long ago and continue today, with a highly tilted playing field that favors the in the club to the detriment to the average American.
Yeah, but listen, we've been down this road before. And I say the same thing, right? We talked about cooperative economics before. We talked about working together. We've been down this road in 2008. And the same story was said then. Main Street went through the crash a different way than Wall Street. The banks were too big to fail, the insurance, et cetera, and they bailed them out.
Right.
And let's be clear. And I'm not saying they're too big to fail, but if a lot of them fail, who gets impacted the worst? The individuals who are at the bottom of the pyramid, right? Which is a lot of times Main Street. So I'm not saying they shouldn't fail or they shouldn't be bailed out, but we have to look at the whole picture in totality. But going back to your point where they said it was a biggest wealth transfer. Right. And I'll say it. When COVID first started happening, I posted quite a bit of stuff on IG and in my stories. And I was like, money is going to change hands during this pandemic. A lot. And some people are going to capitalize on it and some of them are not. But we saw this in 2008 and we saw how it played out. So when COVID hit and when COVID started happening, because it's not like it hit and we were just like, oh, snap, we got to shut down today. It unfolded over time. And I say the same thing I always say. We went out to dinner with friends as things started kind of getting back to whatever's norm, or we had conversations with people, or, on the phone or through, Zoom or whatever. And I said the same thing. How come we didn't do more as a group to capitalize on it? In 2008, there were small businesses who had to shut down, right? Because of the whole mortgage crisis, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there were some who pivoted during that time to say, instead of me focusing on this, where the majority of my income came from, now I'm going to pivot. I don't like that word. I'm going to switch to this. I'm going to quit this and go to this. And the same thing happened during COVID. So people can't sit in my restaurant. Then what?
They built the outside shacks.
Right.
Or you get the drinks to go. In the time we have left, which isn't
drinks
a lot,
to go. Go ahead. Go. We can edit.
Give the people one thing, one specific
You need
step.
to change. Listen, if you are a restaurant and you got the opportunity to say, never could drinks be ordered to take out that I know of here in New York City.
Alcoholic beverages.
Right. Alcoholic beverages. We're not talking about soft drinks. They said you could have people get drinks and go with them. I would have had the drink truck outside, parked, and serving drinks all day long.
Go back to the episode
You're telling me I could put an
about the
alcoholic
drink
beverage
truck
in a plastic container and sell it to somebody and they can walk away from my business and walk down the street sipping it? It would have been game on for me if I had an liquor license. Like, sometimes we get changed. We get so caught up in that moment where, oh, they did this. Woe is me. It's going to be so hard. Like people say, oh, I wish it wasn't so hard. I wish it was easier. No, don't wish it was easier. Don't wish it wasn't hard. Wish you were better. Figure out how to get better.
One way you can try to get better is to associate with people from different industries, different specialties, because you can talk to them about how they're winning in their businesses and their industries and identify ways that you can switch up what you're doing, how you might be able to borrow or implement something from what they're doing to make your organization,
get out your
process,
industry.
your service
I'm telling
better.
You, get your mindset out of your industry. You in the food business, go look at another industry who's thriving during the pandemic and look at what they're doing. And then figure out, is there anything they're doing you can apply to your business? There are tons of things we do at the box that I did not get from the laundry industry. Mm-hmm. Because most of the people I've interacted with, the literature I've read, mm-hmm. the forums I've read, mm-hmm. 9 out of 10 times, they all repeat the same thing. Mm-hmm. plus or minus 10%, maybe. So I'm like, if we deliver clothes and they need to be packaged a certain way, and I look at all the facilities or the businesses that are similar to us in the area, or even in other states and other areas, and I look, and I was like, they all package it this way, give or take. Why can't we package it similar to what we see, I don't know, in the retail industry when they package garments and things like that?
One last question. That's something to think about. One last question. What resources are available to small businesses now that they can take advantage of so that they can be more successful going into 2022?
You start. I don't know.
One thing.
Like what resources available?
Yeah.
Like you got the internet. You got every resource. You click a button. You got Google. You want to ask me what resource you have to make your business better? Google. Google. You have the information at your fingertips that you did not have. Like I had to read encyclopedia when I was a kid. A to Z. I was like, oh, wow, look at the pictures.
My one resource for you is Overdrive or Libby. Those are apps through the public library systems. Wherever you are, your library may be on one or the other or both of those systems. You get on an app, you can download books from your local library. If you have a library card, get a library card. It's free. Audiobooks
as well as ebooks.
And I download up to 10 books at a time and keep my mind full of different topics, different business related issues, non-business related issues. It makes me more well-versed when I have conversations. I'm like one of those cool people to be at cocktail parties with, but it also gives me things to think about as we're running our businesses. And some of the different topics and ideas that we've implemented at our businesses have come from the different audiobooks, the different podcasts to which we've listened to. And those things in many cases are PHREE 99, free 99. Get you some books on tape, audiobooks, ebooks, fill your mind so you can get ideas how to grow your business going into 2022, because we must be prepared for the continuing war on small business.
So basically you're saying like use Overdrive, whether it's for an ebook or audiobook, to get more exposure,
to get more information,
right?
Feed
More
your mind.
Expose yourself to more stuff. Like I would agree. Can I think of one resource? No, but
Google,
Google, right? But use
or YouTube, which is
just be careful.
Something within
be careful
Google.
what you consume.
Get caught up,
and don't go down a
rabbit moderation.
Hole. Don't go down a rabbit hole. But there's some good stuff there.
And you can always come back to Commerce and Chill, because we're going to give you the good stuff. We're going to give you the information that intersects business, love, life, so that you can be successful, help your business grow, have a strong family. And
you just got to expose yourself to different things.
Thanks for exposing yourself to us.
Whoa, gee, that didn't sound too good there. Like I'm saying, like business-wise and mentally, you need to expose yourself. The way you said that,
exactly
that's a little scary. I don't know if it meets the,
And on that note,
rating.
I gotta get back to work. So if we're gonna grow in 2022, I gotta jump on this call. Thank you for watching Commerce and Chill. We look forward to seeing you in a future episode. I am Jessica Johnson Coe.
I'm Waleed.
And we're out.